former NBA player, shooting guard, small forward. He played for the Knicks, Bulls, OKC Thunder, Memphis Grizzlies, Utah Jazz. He was all over the NBA. A great player, great shooter, especially great on defense. So I'm really looking forward to this interview. But before we get started, I'm gonna let Zachary introduce himself first.
We're not gonna make this. I'm not long-winded, man. I'm more interested to talk to Ronnie. But Zach Ramey, the Off the Glass podcast. I'm honored. Thanks for having me on. You can find my podcast on all streaming platforms. Make sure to check it out. So let's get right into it.
Yeah. So first of all, Ronnie, how are you and your family doing during this tough situation?
We're good, man. We're just trying to stay safe and healthy, try to social distance. And, I know it's a little bit tough with Thanksgiving coming up and people traveling, but we still got to take into context. I've got older parents. I have a sister that's battling cancer. So, her and her family are going to be staying at home. But, we just working through it, man. And, being at school and coaching and stuff like that, it's been a difficult situation, but it's something that we're trying to work with and trying to continue to be as normal as possible and go forward, just being safe and healthy as possible.
Yeah, so my prayers are with you guys and wishing her a speedy recovery.
Thank you.
Yes, for sure. I dealt with that. My dad, he's good now, but early on during the pandemic, his cancer had returned. So that was kind of tricky, to your point, how we can come around him and couldn't go to his treatments with him. And, so it's definitely prayers to your family, bro. It's a tough time right now.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
So, Zach, I'll let you start it off.
Well, he mentioned that he was coaching, so didn't find a lot of information on what you're doing these days. What level are you coaching at? What are you coaching, and how long have you been actually coaching? Because that was going to be one of my questions. What are you up to these days?
Man, I'm always into a little bit of this and a little bit of that, as far as like business and things like that, and life after basketball. Trying to stay busy. I started a trucking company, transportation. I have a hair store that's been open for 11 years that sell hair products. Kind of ironic. We started it really to kind of go in the direction of women with cancer who loses their hair. They can still look pretty, and we sell high-end wigs, and earrings, and a lot of other beauty products. So it's called Hair Couture. It's here in Northwest Arkansas. But the last 2 years, I had the pleasure to go back to my alma mater in high school. One of my close friends, Brad Stamps, had the opportunity to become the head coach. He was my coach when I was in junior high and high school. When I was in high school, he was an assistant. When I was in junior high, he was the head coach. When I was in 7th and 8th grade. But he brought on Nick Bradford and myself. Nick Bradford went to Kansas, played overseas for a long period of time. We both went to Fayetteville High School, and we've been coaching. We've both been coaching there for the last 2 years. I'm the assistant varsity coach, assistant JV, and head sophomore coach.
Oh, wow.
It's been a blessing to be back and coaching at my alma mater. I teach oral communication, and then I teach summer basketball at the EYBL level, the Elite Youth Basketball League on the Nike circuit. I coach a team by the name of the Woods Elite, so I'm the head coach of the 16 and under team, and I help with the 17. So that's basically what I've been doing outside of basketball, and got a little business stuff going. I still have Ronnie Brewer Foundation that's been going on for basically the basketball camps are going on 14 years, and the actual foundation was created in 2008, so 12. So
that's awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's really inspiring what you're doing right now. But I want to talk about your career. So for you, when did you get interested in playing basketball, and who was your biggest influencer in that?
Yeah, well, easily biggest influencer was my dad, probably just because, he was the one that brought us to the gym. And my dad was the guy. He played in the NBA All-American at Arkansas, and for him, he never really pressured us to be basketball players. He just gave us an outlet if we wanted to play basketball. So he got us the basketball shoes, and he put the basketball in our hand and would transport us to the gym and kind of allowed us to fall in love with it. And I fell in love with it at an early age. I've got 2 older brothers, 2 older sisters, all played basketball. And just watching them play and playing against them kind of, I think, elevated my competitive nature because, I was the youngest of 5. I was always the smallest and shortest and not as good as basketball as they were until I got older. So my dad taught us all the basic fundamentals, and however amount we wanted to stay in the gym, he was always in there with us. And if we wanted to learn to get better, I mean, he was there to develop us to get better. And to me, I was the gym rat, and I wanted to, get better in my craft. And so I stayed in the gym, and he basically was my biggest influencer and my biggest fan. And, the guy that I kind of went to for advice and kind of gave me the blueprint of how to get where I wanted to go in life.
So with that being said, you settled back down in your hometown, Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about your ties to the state of Arkansas, going to university there, because you're not the first person I met. It seems like people from the South, that Arkansas area, Alabama, you guys really had those ties and really believe in coming back to your community and really giving back. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, first, about the giving back part, my mom always told me, you got to know where you're from to know where you're going in life. And so to me, I'm from Fayetteville, Arkansas. I was born in Portland. My dad played for the Trailblazers, but I grew up my whole entire life in Fayetteville. That's all I know. I don't know any other city other than the cities I lived at while I was playing in the NBA. So basically, growing up here, the pinnacle, the mountaintop is being the Arkansas Razorback. And, they're kind of put on a platform as, one day if you can get a scholarship and play basketball at the University of Arkansas, you made it. And for me, I was able to be around the basketball program and gain a true love for it. Met some players that went on to go to the NBA. And, to me, that's the pinnacle and that's the mountaintop. And that's something that I wanted to thrive and get there. And just, once you're, not saying that there's not for people from here that go other places and make it, but it makes it a little extra special when you can be from Arkansas, go to the University of Arkansas, see the name Arkansas across your chest and your last name on the back, and everybody in the state of Arkansas is pulling and rooting for you to succeed. And when you do that, it's just a special feeling, because no matter where you go after the University of Arkansas, you're always going to have fans. You're always going to have followers, because that's how deep the Arkansas Razorbacks pride runs deep.
All right.
Just real quick to follow up, because I think we're around the same age. I'm born in 81. So when you're growing up, then you're in the Corliss Williamson, Corey Beck, McDaniel, Dillard, those great years. So you were around those. You got to be around those guys. Those were incredible years for the university then. Coach Nolan Richardson, of course.
Yeah, a little bit before that, I was a ball boy when I was a little kid. And so before that, I was able to be able to ball boy the last couple games of Barnhill Arena. Todd Day, Oliver Miller, Lee Mayberry.
Yes.
You got a young Shaquille O'Neal coming into Barnhill, averaging a double-double, almost a triple-double with blocks.
Wow.
And seeing him dunk the basketball and rattle the goal and be able to sweep up the sweat around the paint. Some great memories. And then to transition right after those guys, you've got Corliss, Corey Beck, Clint McDaniel, Scotty Thurman, a lot of great basketball players that came right after them playing for Nolan Richardson. He ended up always bringing in a lot of talent and having a lot of success here. So I was a huge fan of the Razorback program, and they were producing some pretty good teams back then.
So take me back to your draft experience. Obviously, you got picked round 1, pick 14 with the Utah Jazz in 2006. And what was that call like from the legend and the late Jerry Sloan? And what was that playing underneath him? But first, take me back to the draft experience.
The draft experience was crazy. I mean, they call you and say, hey, you've been invited to be, you're one of the top, 21 prospects that they want to be at the green room. And for me, I was like, man, I would have loved the experience. I thought in my mind would be great, but I thought it'd be better if I could just be in my hometown to all my friends and family so we could go through it together. But, my agent, the late Hank Henry Thomas, decided, hey, man, this is a night that you'll never forget in your entire life. Being in the green room, he was there with, Chris Bosh, D-Wade, Devin Harris, a lot of other guys that he experienced with that, Tim Hardaway. So for me, being able to be in New York City in the Garden, which is to me the mecca of basketball. To it was kind of crazy. Right before we went down, we had a photo shoot right before we actually had to go down, and we all got these suits made by this company. All the suits looked identical. So I was like, man, I'm not like a lot of players. I made it in the mud. I'm from Arkansas. We're a little different. I had an alternate suit, and that's kind of how that blue suit came out. I had no idea. A lot of people were like, oh, you changed because you knew you were going to the Jazz. I had no idea I was going to the Jazz. I had a meeting with the Jazz. I met with Coach Sloan and Kevin O'Connor, but I didn't work out for those guys. I scheduled multiple workouts with teams that had an interest in me.
Right.
And they brought me in as a sit down meet and greet type of thing, but not a workout. So once the 10th pick went by, I kind of was like, what am I going to do? Because I only worked out for the 11th team and the 12th team on cancellations. Somebody canceled and they called me to come in. So, but I was very grateful to get my name called by the Utah Jazz. It was great to go up there and shake the commissioner's hand and to finally be like, hey, I finally made it. And it's just a tipping of the iceberg to get your name called. That's just the start of it. There's a lot more work that goes into it, but it's a great feeling to know all the hard work and dedication that you put in paid off by finally hearing your name called as a lottery pick in the draft. And, just from the start, being able to fly out to Utah, meet Coach Sloan, meet the management, Larry H. Miller, he passed away, rest in peace, but he was great. He was trying to turn that program around and brought some really good pieces in there to make it have a successful run. And, if it wasn't for, Kobe Bryant, rest in peace, and the San Antonio Spurs, I think that we had a team that could have possibly won an NBA championship, but we always ran into those two teams and they kind of had a lock on the Western Conference during those 2006, 7, 8, and 9 years. So.
And with that, wasn't one of those teams too? Didn't Ahmed Okur hurt his Achilles 1 year too?
Yeah, he hurt it and was out. And my rookie year, we made it to the Western Conference Finals, and Derek Fisher hit a couple big shots to put us in contention. That was a year that the Warriors upset the Mavericks, so it was kind of anybody's game. And the second seed was the Spurs, and the Spurs beat us, I think maybe 4-1, and then they ended up going to sweeping the Cavs in the finals. So I thought we were going to win it that year. The next year, I was starting, and ran up against Kobe Bryant in the playoffs, and he's such a talented player, and had some really, really good years in Utah playing for Coach Sloan. He taught us so much of being a professional, of how to do it the right way when it comes to offense and defense, and playing hard every possession. And that's something that we hung our hat on. And I think when everybody who ended up leaving Utah, I think they carried that same mentality to whatever team that they went to, and had a lot of success wherever they went.
So let me ask you this. So obviously, the late Jerry Sloan, and it's hard saying that, and it's hard saying the Kobe Bryant and saying the late David Stern. I'm really depressed about all this, but I just need to ask you, what was it like just playing underneath Coach, and then also you play with great teammates in Utah like Darren Williams, Kyle Cover, Paul Millsap even. So what was it like just playing with surrounding pieces like that and underneath Coach?
Man, we had from the person that played 40 minutes a game to a guy that wasn't playing as much, everybody to me contribute. We had Brevin Knight, who's a great veteran to kind of teach and mold us. Ronnie Price was a journeyman, taught us basically how to play hard. We had Wesley Matthews 1 year that came there as a rookie. Eric Maynard came there as a rookie. Mehmet Okur, who's one of our veterans who was made the All-Star team. Andre Karolinko, AK-47, great teammate, former All-Star. Then you had Booz, the double-double machine, All-Star. Darren Williams, All-Star. CJ Miles, Paul Millsap. The list goes on. As all Kyle Korver, all the great guys that I played with. But one common denominator that we had was we all loved and respected Jerry Sloan. He brought something out of you that no other coach could probably bring out of you. His preparation, his daily routine is how you're supposed to prep for practice, the way that you go hard in practice, and how practice correlates and transitions to how you play in the game. And you saw that. That's why our home record was how great it was. I mean, we had one of the best records at home during his tenure when I was there than anybody in the NBA. And then when we went on the road, we played hard and we fought. Even when we were undermanned and didn't have all the pieces and people were hurt, we still were able to be in the games because, the preparation that Coach Sloan had us ready to play, and no matter who was out there. Right. So, it was great to play for him. Was he hard on us? Absolutely. But I wouldn't have it any other way. He was hard on the best player, D. Will Booz, a.k.a. Memo, to the person that didn't get any minutes. We all were asked to carry ourselves the same exact way, carry ourselves in practice the same exact way, and expected and force greatness out of us. And that's one of the things that, carried with me throughout my career is that, hey, this is how it's supposed to be done and there's no other way. And then I got to go play with a coach like Coach Tibbs who coached the same way and expected the same thing. So it was a very, very easy transition to that next team and had a lot of success there as well.
So my question for you, Ronnie, is I want to kind of do a little more basketball type question.
Yeah.
If people go back and look at your Arkansas career, you scored the ball, they see you coming off a lot of pin downs. Mm-hmm. But when we think of you in the league, we think of you of defense. I think you're one of the guys who were kind of ahead of your time. We call this the 3-and-D era now, the Robert Covingtons, the Trevor Arizas, but you were kind of that guy where you were called upon just to do everything. Mm-hmm. And people don't know that you can score. You could, but I think the defensive part and just filling a role. So just a two-part question there. Talk about coming out of college to now to having to fill a role, but also talk about what we see with the transformation of the 3-and-D guy and how you especially with those Bulls. I'm not a Bulls fan, just caveat. I love the color, but I figured since you played for the Bulls, I had to wear the hat. But, you coming from the Bulls, that was definitely one of your roles in Utah. And I know you had a long career, but those were, to me, your two better stops. So talk about that a little bit, if you don't mind.
Absolutely. That's a good question. If you look at my background coming out of high school, I averaged almost 30 points a game, 8 rebounds, 8 assists. Right. When I was in college, I led our team in scoring. I led the SEC in scoring. I almost had 19 points a game when I got drafted in a deep SEC. Not like it wasn't like, there wasn't anybody in there. You're looking at a time where Florida was back-to-back national champions. LSU made the Final Four with Big Baby, Tyrus Thomas, Jaime Loretta, Tasman Mitchell. It's a bunch of good players on their team. And then you look at Alabama, in Kentucky, Rondo, and a whole bunch of other guys, Randolph Morris. So it was a loaded SEC. So I get drafted by Utah, and my mindset is, it's going to go the same way as college. I'm going to come in scoring the basketball because that's what I do. But, I had a conversation with Coach Sloan, and Coach Sloan is like, hey, look, this is our roster. Look, this is the stats from last year. And I was like, okay. He was like, what can you tell about this roster? And I was like, to be honest, I mean, that's a whole bunch of zeros, and those guys are making a lot more money than I'm making. Booz and AK and Memo and D. Will, and that's what, and Derek Fisher. That's what I thought that he was trying to prove. Yeah. Basically, what he's trying to prove was, Darren Williams, was an all-star. High points, high assists.
Right.
Derek Fisher was told to score the basketball, facilitate for others. Andre Kirilenko was told to score and defend at a high level. Booz told to score and rebound. Memo, score and rebound. Gordon Gierchuk came off the bench, score. Matt Hartman came off the bench, score. There was nobody on our team known as a lockdown defender. So he was like, I need you to do something that we don't have. And I need you to be the most fierce, no-fear defender no matter who you guard. And I remember one time we were playing at the Staples Center in my rookie year, and I wasn't playing a lot, and Kobe Bryant had like 30 points going into halftime. And Me, Paul Millsap, and D. Brown were the 3 rookies that got drafted that year. D. Brown out of Illinois. And we were on the bench like, man, this is like a video game. This dude's going crazy. He's got 30 points at halftime. He's going to, for sure, end the game with 60 points. And, Coach Sloan is going down the list, he's pointing at person. Are you scared of Kobe Bryant? You scared of Kobe Bryant? And he comes to me, he gets in my face, and I hadn't been playing at all, guys. My rookie year was up and down. I was behind a lot of good players.
Mm-hmm.
And he comes to me and was like, are you scared of Kobe Bryant? And I was like, well, Coach, I'm not really scared of no man. I'm only really scared of God. So, no, I'm not scared of him. He puts his jersey on just like I put mine on. Is he better? Is he competitive? Yes. Am I competitive? Yeah. But I was like, I'm not going to back down from anybody.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, so you're trying to tell me you're not scared of Kobe? I was like, nah. And he threw me out there. And I'm not saying I shut down Kobe, but I competed every possession. Nothing came easy. No easy layups, no easy dunks, no easy uncontested jump shots. And I just competed every possession. And that's all I could do. And, Kobe would come to me after the game and was like, dude, I love your competitiveness. I love how you don't give up on plays. I appreciate you not talking basically crap and playing hard. And I was like, well, it's Kobe Bryant. He scored 81 points in the game. I'm not going to talk smack to him. So
right.
I'm just like, hey, I'm just here to do my job. You know what I'm saying? But that's kind of how that started is my first year to get on the court as a rookie, I needed to be a lockdown defender.
Mm-hmm.
My second and third year, I averaged 12 or 13 points. My second year and, third year, almost 14 points a game. And then double figures my fourth year. So it's not like I wasn't scoring the basketball, but it was just known that I was a really tough defender as well. I tried to knock down as many corner threes as I possibly could, but, I was very athletic, run the floor, slash. But, I consider myself a Swiss Army knife, somebody who could do a little bit of everything and do it above average.
Yep.
I wasn't going to go out there and give you 30 points a game, but there was some games where I scored 20 points. I wasn't averaging a double-double, but there's some games I give you 10 rebounds or 10 assists. And I was always playing the passing lane to get steals, and I was already defending at a high level. So that's kind of the transformation of how I went from scoring a whole bunch of points to being a two-way player. Coach Sloan basically told me there's no way you're going to get on the court unless you do something different than what we already got, and kind of carried that over to Chicago because that was kind of my role, be a spark on offense and defense off the bench. And lead that bench mob group that we had, and it was one of the best benches that we had that we had in the NBA that year. So it was very successful and allowed us to win, over 60 plus games. So, when given the opportunity, you got to make the most of the opportunity, and you always got to be ready when your name is called. So that's what I try to do.
Yeah. So this one's a 2-part question, but before that, in Chicago, I had CJ Watson on my podcast recently. Did you get to play, did you play with him in Chicago?
Yes, we were together in Chicago. Actually, me and him both came up with the name, the Bench Mob, because, they always would say how good our bench was and, how it was the best in the NBA. And, me and CJ have known each other for a long time. We've been playing basketball versus each other in junior high and high school. And then we played each other in college. He went to Tennessee, I went to Arkansas. And then we both made it to the NBA and then had long journeys and careers, but we had to stop where we were in Chicago together. So really close friend of mine.
So my 2-part question here, obviously you had 2 stints with the Bulls, and obviously you played, I'm a New York Knicks fan, so you played for the Knicks, and you had a great career there too. And what was it like just playing for 2 iconic franchises in New York and Chicago, obviously wearing the same jersey as Michael Jordan, Patrick Ewing, and also you played underneath Tibbs. So now Tibbs is with New York now too. So what did you like about Chicago and New York? And then my next one is, this is gonna be a fun one. Did you obviously Darren Williams played for Brooklyn, and when you played Brooklyn, did you guys like trash talk for fun on the court?
To answer that last part, people try to make the Knicks Nets rivalry bigger than what it was. It wasn't really a rivalry. Like, the Nets weren't there yet. You know what I'm saying? They had a lot of great pieces, but we just had a better team in New York, and we'd be at dinner, we'd be out at a club or something like that, and people would expect like beef. And I was like, man, Darren Williams is one of my best friends because we played at Utah together. He's like a big bro to me. And Joe Johnson is the biggest name to come out of Arkansas, who was also on Brooklyn's team. So it's like, I got so much love for their backcourt, and I'm so cool with those guys that there's no beef with me and there's no beef with my teammates. Like, I loved Allen Aronson. He was a guy that came off the bench, had a relationship with him. And, you know, I met those other guys while playing in NBA. So there wasn't any beef, but, you know, it wasn't a lot of trash talk. It wasn't it was just hard-nosed competitiveness and both teams wanting to win and compete. But to go back on your first question about playing for the Story franchise, you know, it was kind of crazy that, you know, practicing in the same practice facility as you saw all those documentaries of Michael Jordan, and you see all the banners throughout the United Center and the practice facility. And, you know, during when I was there, it was different, you know, 20-year anniversaries or 10 years anniversaries, whatever it was, of championship teams. And so Jordan would come back, and Pippen and Dennis Rodman and John Paxson and Bill Cartwright and Ron Hart, all these great guys that you looked up to, Tony Kukoc, growing up as a kid. And you're playing a game, but you're able to see them bring out the trophy. And, you know, a lot of the guys got their rings on. And, you know, Michael Jordan's like a bigger-than-life, you know, figure. So it was just great to be able to play for that franchise, play under a great coach and Coach Tibbs. You know, it was really, really good. I think that we did very, very good as a team coming together. You got to think that the only players that were on that team still that year that we came in was Derrick Rose, Lou Alding, Taj Gibson, and James Johnson. But outside of that, you brought in a completely new roster. Booz, Kyle Korver, myself, all come from Utah. You had C.J. Watson, Brian Scalabrine, Kurt Thomas, Keith Bogans, another time, Rip Hamilton, Nazi Muhammad. These are all new pieces that you brought in, and we, you know, Tibbs did a great job to have us mesh together. So it was great playing for them. Chicago's such a sports city. The United Center is a great atmosphere. You know, when you're winning, they're behind you. We won a lot of games there. We were, you know, did great. The fans loved it. He got so much love, which allowed the team to get so much love. He was so young as the youngest MVP, and it was just so much potential on where this team could go. It was just a great experience playing for Chicago. Some of the, you know, best fans in the NBA. And then you go to New York. Again, like I said, is to me the mecca of basketball. To be able to, you know, pull into the Garden, you know, you get like when you talk about Celebrity Row, like in Chicago, Celebrity Row is a lot different than LA and New York. Any other place in the country, it's a lot different than LA and New York. So that part right there took a little to get used to, because I mean, you see Spike Lee, but you might see Chris Rock, and you might see Hugh Hefner, and you could go down the list of people that might pop up to a Knicks game any given day, which was great. And the thing about it, when I was there, we really had it going, and we were winning games. And playing for Mike Woodson was great. You know, gave me the opportunity to start. You know, Amon Shumpert was out with the knee injury. Amari Stoudemire was out with the knee injury, so he gave me the opportunity to start. And you know, people don't really understand. We had the oldest NBA team in NBA history. You know, Kurt Thomas was 40, Marcus Camby was 40, Rasheed Wallace was 40, Jason Kidd was 40, and you know, all those guys were dressing up and trying to play. You know, to me at the time, I thought I was a seasoned vet, and you know, we were one of the youngest guys on the team. Me, J.R. Smith, you know, James Flight White, Raymond Felton, Mello. You know, we were considered the young guys. Chris Copeland was a younger guy, supposedly, but Pablo Prigioni was the youngest rookie at age 35. So our roster makeup was a little different. You had Steve Novak coming in doing the discount double check.
Yeah.
The fans loved it.
Yeah, that's right.
We
Yep.
won a lot of games. And everybody there thought we were on the right track to have a long-term success. But it becomes a business, and they moved some pieces around. I got traded, and they didn't finish how they thought they were, and it happens. But it was a great experience. The great thing about New York fans is when you're winning, everybody's on your side.
Yeah.
You're the greatest player that they've ever had. You lose a couple games, they're definitely going to let you know about it and how bad you played. So it was a great experience playing for New York, playing in the Mecca, and it was two stints that I had that I'll never forget in my life.
Well, I see the time is running down, so I'm not going to, belabor this question, but I was high on two guys that came out of Arkansas this year. I ain't gonna lie, I was super shocked that Mason Jones went undrafted. I mean, so talk about Mason Jones and Isaiah Joe. What do you think their future prospects hold? I think they bowl well in the NBA, but talk about them and as the latest products to come out of, Arkansas.
Man, I'm huge fans of both guys. I go to almost every game. And I've known Isaiah Joe since he was almost in diapers. His dad started the Arkansas Hawks. I played for the Arkansas Hawks when I was a kid.
Okay.
Mike Conley started it, who's the dad of Mike Conley Jr. So it's a small world, and people really don't know a lot of the connections unless you get told them. But a huge fan of Joe sticks with the Sixers because of his ability to knock down shots. They're looking for shooting. Yeah, yep. They're looking for a guy that come in and be a difference maker and knock down shots, and he's that guy. Mason Jones, so surprised that he didn't get drafted. He's the reigning MVP of the SEC. You see all those guys get drafted in the SEC, and you're like, well, hold on a second. If he's the MVP of the SEC, he for sure has to get a look from somebody. So it's kind of mind-boggling, but I think him going to Houston on a two-way deal is a great opportunity. I think it allows him the flexibility to allow him to develop in the G League, but also, it's different times. There's going to be times where people are hurt. There's going to be times where people are out with COVID. So why not can you pull him in and contribute without having to trade and bringing in another piece? So it's a very smart move by the Rocks, and I think you'll see him playing in the big leagues pretty soon.
I can't say enough, just super surprised. Multiple 30-point games. I think he had 2 40-point games last year. So I was surprised. I'm not going to lie.
Absolutely. Me too.
Yeah, so I want to obviously you play for the Thunder and Rockets, and I want to bring this question up to you. Obviously, you play with Kevin Durant, OKC, and also you play with was James Harden when you were at Houston, right?
James Harden was at Houston, and they just signed Dwight. And then when I was in OKC, Kevin Durant just won the MVP, and he was playing alongside Russell Westbrook.
Yeah, here's my question to you. So obviously, there's this rumor, a lot of rumors going on with the Harden trade rumors and Westbrook, and obviously you play with KD and Harden. Do you think they both can play together? And obviously they played together in OKC, but in the Brooklyn situation, do you think that will work out if it happens?
I don't see why not. I think that they're all on the same page as their mindset. I think they're going in this situation as not trying to have individual success and individual hardware is like going out to try to win the MVP. I think their mindset has switched to the bigger picture. They've already had the MVP. They've already had the first team and second team All NBA or whatnot, scoring titles. They've been there and done that. I don't think that's what they're out to achieve. I think that what they're trying to achieve is they want to get into that same category as those guys that you talk about of being great when you win multiple championships and multiple MVPs.
Yeah.
So whatever personal thing that they have, they'll figure it out. Whatever situation that they have about shot attempts, who handles the ball, who gets the last shot, they'll figure it out. If that move is made, they're going to figure it out, and they're going to figure it out soon. And there's going to be, I'm pretty sure there's going to be maybe is it a full season, a full 82 games?
It's 72 games, I think.
72 games.
Yep.
You've got 72 games to figure it out and playoffs. And I'm sure if they pull the trigger and get that trade and he goes up there, I think they'll figure out a way to make it work. They made it work in OKC, and I know they both are younger and they are now more developed in bigger roles. But don't think that OKC, those guys were slouches. Those guys were, KD was one of the top scorers in the league, and James Harden was the top 6 man of the year and had a huge role and took it to the finals.
Well, I didn't know it was gonna come back to me because the time was ticking. But speaking on your days, you played with a lot of great teams. Yeah. I think that's a testament to what some of you said early on about your dad, making sure you guys were complete players, because one can say that if you weren't a complete player, who knows how long your NBA career might have turned out. But the fact that you didn't be, a complete player, you were always like that extra piece that they felt like they was needed. How does that make you feel when you kind of look back on your career?
It makes me feel good. When people always would say, well, man, Ronnie was the glue guy. He kept us all together, or he made us turn the corner. Like, I never was a guy that you looked on paper like, oh man, he led them in points. Like he averaged, 25 points a game. I wasn't that guy, but I always was the guy that, hey, he made the right play all the time, offensively and defensively, and he was a great locker room guy. And I think that's the reason why I continued to get calls to join teams was, I had a reputation that followed me. Hey, man, he's going to play hard on both ends of the floor. He's not going to have any problems in the locker room. He's going to not complain about shots. He's going to get the ball to the right person at the right time all the time. And we can rely on him on doing the dirty work and defending. And that's kind of what I hang my hat on is if I was a one-dimensional person where I can only just catch and shoot, then if there's a team that has 2 or 3 catch and shoot guys, then I'm kind of out of the mix. Or if I'm only a defender, or I can't handle the ball and facilitate for others. And I always preach this to our players now. If you can play multiple positions, know multiple positions, and be successful at multiple positions, you have a better chance to stay in the game and stay in the game longer. And that's kind of what it was for me. I stayed in the game longer because I could do multiple things, and I could do multiple things at a high level.
So it looks like we're coming down on time here, but here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start a new Zoom link so we can continue this discussion. If that's okay.
Yeah, that's okay.